Hello everybody, Mad Dog Marty Sugar here, and it's just another Mad Dog Monday. This week I'm trying it tape to see if it'll work. I wanted to work on this Sunday night. Currently it is Monday, May the 10th. It is 9:35 in the morning my time as I tape this, and I was going to do it last night, but I was up till 3 a.m. working on Tuesday Night Talkdown. I like to get it all done on Sunday, and if I can just be honest for a sec, I don't know what the deal is with Tuesday Night Talkdown. It's supposed to be a game based on fan votes, and lately several people have complained behind the scenes that it's not fair because they're not winning. And that's not how games work. They're not called fairs, they're called games, where you play and you win and you lose, and some people lose more than others, and that's not the winner's problems or my problem. If you can't win, it's not because there's some global conspiracy against you. It's because you aren't doing what it takes to win. I don't book people to win or lose. I just let people vote, and that's that. I've had people say that the rules were stacked against them, and this suggestion is asinine at best. And it's just frustrating to put in the hours that I do when people can't be bothered. I've been getting a lot of it lately is that people wait until the deadline. For those of you that don't know, the deadline is 9 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday. The next week's matches usually pop up Monday or Tuesday. Like today, I'll probably post the week 12 matchups. Sometimes I give longer for themed weeks so that people have a little bit extra time to prepare, and I find most people wait until Sunday evening to even attempt to start, and then something happens and then they go, oh, I couldn't get it done. Most people also only do it in one take, even though they don't have the skills to do it in one take. And if you can take 90 seconds out of your life to cut a promo in 6 to even 4 days, your job isn't 24 hours a day. That's all I'm saying. Lance Skulls puts in 6 to 8 segments every week and has a full-time job as a chef, which is murder, and still puts in 6 to 8 segments a week. I work a full-time job and spend hours on this show on Sunday to get it all done, even though it's not due until Tuesday. It's not acceptable. And it's not acceptable to take your frustrations out on the person that does all the work and call them stupid or call them bad creative or whatever it is you want to say you're not having fun. I had someone this week say they didn't feel they should have to cut a promo, or they don't feel inspired to cut a promo, and then just made excuses. If you're not inspired to cut promos, it's the same as if you're not inspired to be a wrestler. If you're not inspired to show up on time, if you're not inspired to put in the effort, hit the bricks. Don't bring the quality of the show down because you want to have a temper tantrum. Take your ball and go home. It doesn't affect me in any way.
Hello, Miss Fortune Cookie, how can I help you?
Yes, I phone to make a complaint, all right? Your title, Miss Fortune Cookies, you are gendering your cookies. Why are you gendering them? Sure, Miss is better than Mr., but still, the fact you need to give your snack a pronoun really triggers me. What's even more upsetting is that it's cultural appropriation. You took these cookies from the Chinese. And my biggest issue is how many calories these cookies have, okay? This cultural appropriation and gendering goes straight to my thighs. I see your fortune, and your fortune is canceled.
I just work here.
I'll get a baker's dozen.
All right.
I watched 2 of the 3 matches I discussed this week. I got sidetracked, and I'll apologize. I was watching some absolute intense wrestling. which they put on some really good shows. I think their wrestling name's horrible, and then their championships are called the Absolute and Intense. So there's Absolute Intense Wrestling, and they have an Absolute Championship and an Intense Championship, and I don't get it. But the shows are great because they put together an interesting combination of matches. It's like literally, the one announcer said it's like the weather in Cleveland, because they're based out of Cleveland, Ohio. And he says Absolute Intense Wrestling is like the weather in Cleveland. If you don't like it, wait 15 minutes. And then a lot of the matches just are really different one to the other. If you have the IWTV app, check it out. They did 2 shows back-to-back at the end of April. First one was called Hello Cleveland. It was their first time back at their old stomping grounds in over 400 and some days. And then they did a show the next night as well. And they're both very different. I've only watched about half. The second show is called Is This Something You Would Like? Where they kind of throw a lot of really random matches together, and some of them are good. I've only got about halfway through. The bigger matches on the card are later on the show, and I look forward to that. There's a Dominic Garrini, Eddie Kingston match that Camaro Cope has been raving about. Dominic Garrini on the one show, on the Hello Cleveland show, had a banger of a match with Lee Moriarty. Just some really great stuff. Really fun. Also, Mance Warner's on both cards, and Mance looked like such a stud against their double champ, Joey Bishop, and then had a fun little brawl with Wildfire Tommy Rich, who could barely move, but he was out there throwing them punches, and then it turned into an 8-man tag. That was a train wreck, but it was there for a reason. They like to have their train wreck matches, and power to them. So the 2 matches I did watch, I watched the Moondogs versus, and let me just grab all the stats here, they're sitting right here in front of me. Tony GAREA and Rick Martel against the Moondogs from Madison Square Garden. This is in the early 80s. Martel and GAREA were WWF Tag Team Champions, and the Moondogs, this incarnation of the Moondogs was Moondog Rex and Moondog King. And of course Moondog King is Seaman White, legend from the Maritimes, and it was a super fun match. GAREA and Martel were the fiery, lightning quick, technically sound babyface champions facing the big, mean, ugly brothers. At one point, Vince McMahon was just doing a commentary to pop himself. I think at one point he said, Moondog Rex, you can tell them apart because Moondog Rex is the more handsome of the two. And then he also made a couple of silly dog references, a bone to pick, and stuff like that. Just silly stuff that clearly was just to entertain himself. Vince McMahon was never a great play-by-play guy, but, you know, he enjoyed his time, and he did the best he could. And I appreciate his passion. I know a lot of people dismissed him, but I thought he did a good job. The match is excellent. The baby faces are just going 100 miles an hour, and then eventually the Moondogs overpower the younger Rick Martel and beat him within an inch of his life. It's just nasty and brutish. And then Tony GAREA gets tagged in, and it's the fiery comeback from the grizzled veteran who, people forget Tony GAREA was a 5-time tag team champion. Most people my age remember just seeing Tony GAREA as enhancement talent because he was at the end of his run, and that's what you do. But he was a 5-time tag team champion. He held the belts with Martel and Putski and Morales, and he held it with some greats, man. 5 times. Oh, there's my alarm. It's time to get ready to go.
And now, according to the government of Canada, I own Big West Wrestling. And I can prove it.
But yeah, 5 times as tag team champion. He was Billy Gunn before Billy Gunn was a thing. He had this killer drop kick, and it was a really fun match. It breaks down in the end where GAREA has got, of all things, an abdominal stretch on one of the Moondogs. It looks like they're going to tap, and then the other hits GAREA with the bone, busts him wide open. All hell breaks loose. The champs retained by disqualification, but the Moondogs are still putting the boots to the champs until GAREA and Martel reverse a cross-corner whip and send the Moondogs packing. Super fun, and the heat is off the charts. If you listen to it, the crowd reactions to everything is just insane, and it's super fun. And it's one of those things where the Moondogs brought Memphis tag team wrestling to the WWF. That wasn't really a thing at the time. But you can see that Memphis style, the missed tags, all the swapping in and out. Excellent stuff. Super good. Moondogs are such an underrated team. And not amongst indie wrestlers, because a lot of people want to be Moondogs, myself included. And great stuff. The other match was Rick Martel and Booker T for the television title in WCW. Now, this one was interesting but sad. Rick Martel came into WCW in January of 1988. Sorry, January of 1998. And at first was in a program with Booker T based on mutual respect. This is when they were pushing Booker T as a single star. This is the beginning of it. And back then there was some really great feuds surrounding that television title, which later would get thrown in the trash and be treated as a joke, which was disgustingly unfair. But Booker T and Perry Saturn and Fit Finlay and, I'll say his name, Chris Benoit, and Rick Martel and even Disco Inferno got thrown in there. And there was just this great rivalry around that television title where a lot of these mid-card guys were given a chance to succeed or fail. And a lot of them succeeded. And Rick Martel comes in, he's the veteran babyface, and he's the respected vet, and these guys, everyone was put in there to work with Booker T and make him a star, and hot damn if Booker T did not take to it like a duck to water and had great matches with all these guys. I don't remember the Disco Inferno match, to be honest, because I've kind of blocked out my memory of Disco Inferno, and I'm sure I'll end up getting slagged on Keeping It 100 by Glenn Gilberti, and it's not the point that I'm making here. I just don't remember a lot of Disco Inferno stuff. It is what it is, man. And the stuff that was Rick Martel, he came in first as an ally because Raven's Flock and Booker T needed backup, like everyone needed backup. And then next thing you know, Rick wants that television title. And in this match, he comes out super aggressive. He is giving it to Booker T. He wants that goddamn championship. They fight back and forth in a really fun television battle. Booker T keeps fighting back. He's fighting back. Ultimately, a distraction from Perry Saturn. Inadvertently, accidentally on purpose, allows Rick Martel to steal the win from Booker T with the Quebec Crab. And obviously Rick Martel's longtime finisher. And Rick Martel's new television champion. So that was February 15th. And unfortunately, that would be the end of Rick Martel's time in WCW. A week later, February 16th was the Nitro, where Martel won the belt. February 22nd, that very next Sunday, was Super Brawl. And it was supposed to be initially Booker T versus Perry Saturn for the television title, and then Rick Martel. Then it got turned into a gauntlet match. So it's supposed to be Rick Martel defending against Booker T and Perry Saturn. And in that match, Rick Martel blows out his knee. So they had to improvise on the fly. There ended up being a couple more botches. Martel got back in the ring to try and finish the match, hurt his knee worse. Booker T ended up winning and regaining the television title, and they moved on with the program. Unfortunately for Rick Martel, after injuring his knee on the 22nd, he'd be out until July the 13th, and on that episode of Monday Nitro, he had a match against the other half of Harlem Heat, Stevie Ray, re-injured that knee, and good night, Irene. That was the end of Martel's WCW career. He did stick around, though, and he did work behind the scenes as a trainer, and he was a host of French versions of their TV, so, I mean, they kept him on board, and he was able to still kind of continue in the wrestling business. Rick Martel is one of those forgotten greats, and I want to try and shine a light on forgotten greats because so many people just watch the same 10, 12 guys, and even when I tell young guys to go back in time to watch some people, they still just look at the same 10, 12 guys, and there's other guys out there. There's Rick Martel, there's Tony Garea, like I just mentioned, there's the Moondogs, there's Magnificent Morocco, who's my all-time favorite. Tito Santana gets forgotten about because everyone just wants to watch Ricky Steamboat. And there's so many great guys out there to look at. So if you're watching some wrestling and you are a pro wrestler and you want to learn some nuances that maybe you didn't see before, Rick Martel is one of those guys to watch. He was a spectacular babyface and then became a really great workhorse heel. and he's a guy to watch. As far as other stuff, as far as reading, I have just started reading Highway of Tears, which talks about the murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls in British Columbia, up around the Prince George, Prince Rupert area, and I'm only about 15 pages in. It's very dark, it's very sad, but I feel it's important to read, so I am forcing myself to read it. Also, I am listening to a lot of stuff on Audible. I'm listening to 2 self-help books I may have mentioned before, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle and Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins. They've been really helping me in my self-growth, the work I've been doing while I'm up here in Inuvik. Also been listening to Mycroft Holmes, which is about, obviously, Sherlock Holmes' older brother, written by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Did you know Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is not only, quote-unquote, the biggest Holmes fan ever, because he's 7'2", but has written, 30 books. And not all of them are biographies and philosophy-type stuff of how to succeed in life, because Lou Alcindor grew up a poor kid and went on to become one of the greatest basketball players of all time. And he doesn't write just books about that. He's written kids' books based on his life, and now he's got 3 Mycroft Holmes books done at least, if not a 4th on the way. So it was mind-blowing to even know that he did it, and yeah, so there's that. Also, Audible hooked me up with, because I have a membership, they offered me a free book this month, and it's by Dean Kunitz, of all people, and I stopped reading Dean Kunitz 20 years ago. And my mom and my grandpa, her dad, loved Dean Koontz, and I said, is it Koontz or Kunitz? They loved Dean, and I used to read him a lot, and then I realized he had a formula back then, and it was the same story every time. It was a shy, hard-working single mom who has something happen, and she meets a handsome but shy detective or police officer, and there's a spark there, but neither one of them is brave enough to follow up on said romantic spark, and then something draws them together, a crime usually against the woman, sometimes supernatural, but usually just a monster of a human being, and they come together, and in the end, during this trauma, they realize, hey, let's give love a shot. And I read 12 books, and they're all the same. Except for one, where it's about a guy who takes his fiance's son cross-country to see his dad, and so instead of them falling in love, they get stalked by a psycho drifter on the highway, and the trauma brings their bond together as future stepson and stepdad and makes it stronger. Not in a weird online way, but just now they have this better family dynamic. So Nameless is the book, and I was like, oh, well, it's free, I'll give it a shot. It is not part of the Dean Kunitz old school formula. It is about a guy who is referred to as Nameless. He's kind of a Jason Bourne type. He has no memory of his past, and now he's kind of a hired gun for this secret organization that metes out justice when justice can't be served by the courts. I will warn you, if you listen to it, there's several stories in the book of his adventures going around America exacting justice. The first one's very dark. It's about child molesters in a small town in Texas that pay the price for their evil deeds. And it's dark, and it's disturbing, and it's super good. I can't stop listening to it right now. And so check that out. Music-wise, I want you guys to listen to Garrett Scatterty. I've known Garrett for years. He's from the Okanagan. He is a spectacular pizza maker. He is an amazing musician. Garrett put out an album basically himself in 2019 called Jack of Hearts. It's on Spotify. I will link it. It's amazing. It's just some really beautiful work, and Garrett's a super talented guy that doesn't get the credit he deserves. And that's what this is about, is giving people credit that haven't received credit before. I want to touch on one more thing before I go. Is last time, on one of the last live episodes, I was asked by a young wrestler who, I didn't say his name then, it was Ace Redmond Jr., and he asked questions about students that I was proud of and when I was proud with them, and et cetera, et cetera. And I forgot to mention Ace Redmond Jr., and for that, buddy, I do apologize. Ace has kind of taken an extended break. Obviously, everyone's on break from wrestling, but he hasn't really been involved in any of the online stuff. No, not going to lie, it was a bit of a chore to get his promo for Wrestler of the Year, because he's so focused on right now, he is going to be a dad, and everyone is so excited and happy, and rightfully so. As a new dad-to-be, he is scared to death, and dude, I was there. It is a scary and beautiful time when your first child is born, and when your second child, and however many more you end up having. It's magical. And as a dad, it's such a stressful time where you have to be calm and cool and collected, because your wife is going to be freaking out, and it's up to you to hold the fort together when you feel like everything's falling apart, and when you literally have no control over the situation at all. It's very tough, very rewarding experience, but I did not acknowledge Ace for a moment that I was super proud of, someone that I had mentored and trained, and that was when we came up here to Inuvik to run our training camps, and we had to kind of hotshot some training to put on a wrestling show here for Totally Arctic Wrestling. It was a daunting task. I did not put Ace in a easy situation. He was basically thrown into a sink or swim situation, and he swam, and he did excellent. And it has caused grief for both of us, for some people that, for lack of a better term, were simply petty and suggested he didn't have the chops to be a trainer. And to those people, you were 120% wrong. You're completely off your rocker if you think that Ace Redmond Jr. doesn't have the temperament and knowledge to train. He was great. He was patient where I wasn't. He did it by the book, and he did a great job. And he did his own head trainer, Colin Cutler, proud. And to you, Ace Redmond, I salute you. And on that positive note, we're going to call it this week. And on that, I'm going to call it, have a great Monday. I got to start getting ready to go to work, because like any good indie wrestler, I have a full-time job. Tuesday night, of course, is Talkdown. It's 90s week. We have 2 no-shows, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. And the rest of the people put in some really great stuff. I really appreciate the work that was done. Also, we've got the Wednesday live results for Talkdown with yours truly. Hopefully it'll be live again. We're still trying to figure out the kinks here of the cowboy internet up in the north. Until next time, I am Mad Dog Marty Sugar. Have a good day, eh?
For 30 days and 5,000 miles, I've been reading between the lines, stuck between where I'm going and where I've been, and I'm losing track of time.